I'm Batman. Wrong. You're merely a Batman. One of millions of insignificant copies which I may extinguish. Wait, really? Millions? Why am I even here? I'm going on vacation.
Hello my friends and welcome back to Player Display. Here we have a really amazing figure, I think. We'll get into that. We have the Dynamic Action Heroes Dark Knight's Metal DAH-070, the Merciless Dark Knight's Metal, again, action figure. So we've reviewed a figure from Beast Kingdom before. That was a 1989 Michael Keaton Batman, and I had some issues with that figure. Really the big thing was that he was done in a really, admittedly nice looking body glove, but the issue with that is that all that armor was glued on. So when you went to move any part of the figure, pieces would start to, pop off a little bit. Not that anything has fallen off yet, but you just always had this feeling of tension whenever you're moving this figure. But that being said, after that, I got the Joker from the same line, the Jack Nicholson version, and that was a great figure. We never reviewed him, but because everything was done in cloth, everything moved around very beautifully. So this is my third figure from Beast Kingdom, being the Merciless. And who is the Merciless? For those of you who don't know, to keep a very, very long story short, there is a side story within the DC Comics line right now called Dark Knight's Metal, where basically you have all these alternate evil Batmen from an alternate evil multiverse teaming up to destroy Batman and the Justice League. So you have the Batman Who Laughs, the most iconic version, being an amalgamation of Batman and the Joker, of course. And then you have this, which is Batman and Wonder Woman and Ares, a little bit of a three-pack going on. But that being said, this is probably my favorite design of all the Dark Knight's Metal characters. Just really cool combination of Batman and more so Ares and Wonder Woman. But all that being said, very neat looking character and a great looking figure. And to be honest, I just got pissed off by the fact that I couldn't find a proper, decent review of this figure on YouTube. So I'm like, out with it. I'll do it myself. So here we are. I got this package from Amazon, and by the way, this figure is pretty much discounted everywhere on Amazon and on BBTS, so if you want to pick up your very first Beast Kingdoms figure, highly recommend this one. But anyways, as for the box, very beautiful, holographic, shiny blue, going throughout. You can see my hand moving in front of it, which is really neat. You got all the logos over here, which you've discussed already, including this hybrid between Batman and Wonder Woman, which is pretty damn sweet. On this side, you have pretty much everything exactly the same, just a little bit smaller. And on this side, you've got exactly the same thing. Over here, we have a brief showing of, I believe, all the accessories this figure comes with. I like when a figure doesn't have too many accessories, that you don't have to have a whole bunch of little baggies for them or anything afterwards. It's a nice selection. You got the figure, some alternate heads, got a sword, hands, and electric effects, and that's all. They keep it nice, short, and sweet, and I really appreciate that. So, all that being said, let's do an unboxing. I don't believe we did a proper unboxing with the Batman before, so this will be a little bit different, so let's give that a shot. It's like a shoebox style packaging. I expect it'll be very collector friendly, but we will find out. So slide it on open after, of course, cutting those initial pieces of tape. And this is as far as I've gone. I don't know what's going to go on in here from here on out, but looks like you have a really neat looking insert of the Merciless as he appeared in the comics. And then tilting this upward here, wow, here is the figure looking really fantastic in this giant plastic bubble. So let's remove the plastic from here so you can get a better look. I'm going to try and do so gingerly. I don't want parts flying out. Actually, that was really nice. No twist ties, no tape, no nothing. So, yeah, very good collector-friendly packaging. So let me see if I could tip this up a little bit. Yeah, without anything falling out. Yeah, you got, looks like the main figure, 2 alternate head sculpts, 6 hands, a sword, and then the electric effects, which I can imagine are on the inside of the bubble. I think I remember from the Batman, they hid some extra goodies underneath, and yes, they did. So let's have a look at that as well. Take out the interior bubble, and you have an additional bubble with the electric effects and some instructions if you're a little confused as to how to part swap with this figure. So let's get right into this. Alright, first impressions of this figure as my fridge starts to kick up in gear yet again. This thing is incredible. Opening this thing, it was kind of the same sensation you get from opening an Ultimate NECA figure where you can peel open the box, you smell the good paint and everything, you can feel all the textures and stuff. I'd really compare this to a nice marriage between NECA and Hot Toys. All the parts are individually crafted and hand painted. You got all the cloth elements in there. You got a little bit of metal, very fittingly, with the chains for this character. And this guy's just a really good package. I can't imagine why he's on sale. I'm surprised not more people want this character. It's so good. I fiddled around with him just a little bit, just to get a sense of him. I haven't gone too deep into him yet. We will be doing so when we go into accessories and articulation. We'll get there when we do. But first impressions out of the gate, this is one of the best figures I've ever handled, period. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to get this figure is because I've always been interested in the Merciless design, and McFarlane has actually made one. It was one of their earlier Build-A-Figs, which looks great, but the articulation's a little clunky, and interestingly enough, now that this guy is so heavily discounted, they're both the same price in aftermarket, which I found really weird. So, you can get this guy who's more premiumly decoed. Premiumly decoed, is that a thing? He's got more accessories, better articulation, and an LED feature, which we will look at. All that for the same price as the McFarlane version, which is on the third-party market. So, I mean, do the math here. Which one's more worth your buck? I think I'm going with Dynamic Action Heroes over here. But anyways, that's enough of that being said. I hope you got a nice 360 over here to get us started. But now, let's take a deeper look. I hope you folks are sitting nice and cozy, because it looks like this is going to shape up to be one of our longer reviews. You know how those go, around 30 minutes, perhaps more. But I think this guy is worth every attention to detail. So, firstly, we have a really excellent, flawless looking head sculpt of this very aged and beat up Bruce Wayne. Of course, this is not the Bruce Wayne we're accustomed to. This is one who fell in love with Wonder Woman at some point, and then eventually they went to war with Ares. And then in order to obtain the helmet of Ares, Bruce Wayne killed Wonder Woman, put the helmet on, and it drove him to become the next god of war. Which is a totally bonkers story. That could be said about all the Dark Knight's Metal characters. Not a whole lot of substance in there, but that being said, a lot of fun and kooky what-if stories. So I dig it. I think it's pretty cool. Anyhow, going back to the head sculpt, the paint is immaculate. You're not going to see the usual slop or off-centered nature or printed on, scan, anything that you'd see on a normal figure. Here, it looks like everything was done by hand. I could be totally wrong about that. I don't know what the process is behind the scenes of Beast Kingdom. I mean, pick and choose your favorite details here. We have a really beautifully done gray hair and beard sculpt, and eyebrows, actually. We have, it looks like it's done in a base darker gray, then it's done on top with a little bit of a white dry brush, which looks absolutely beautiful. As for the face, you've got some really nice gridded teeth. You have an eye in there, and then you got one eye which has been slashed out in combat, looking very good. I'm not sure if that's part of the comic or not. Again, I don't read the comics. All my knowledge comes from YouTube. Everyone learns differently, and that's okay. As long as you enjoy the characters, no one should yell at you about how you obtain your knowledge. So that's that. That's my whole rant there. But off to the back, you have a really nice fur piece, which I think is absolutely amazing. I don't think it's made from a real animal or anything. I think it's faux fur of some sort. I think this was simulated with a very small sculpt on the McFarlane figure, but obviously this takes the cake. It's just so much better to have a more tangible and fluffy experience, so I'm really digging that a lot. It looks like you can flip it up a little bit, and behind here is supposed to be the access to the LED feature. It looks like that's going to be a bitch to crack open, so we'll figure that out later, but that might be my first negative about this figure, but I'm so blown away. As for the arms, we have really massive shoulder pauldrons. How are these plugged in? It looks like they're not plugged in with plastic. It looks like they're tied in to the fur, which I think is really good. That'll allow him to probably get some more arm articulation, which is something you definitely want with this character. Ooh, that's nice. It could swivel all the way up. I wasn't expecting that. And you know why that is? There's something they should have done with the Batman. You could see that while he does have a body glove underneath that simulates chainmail, you could see that done here in almost a silver-looking color and texture. There is a separation between the cloth, so this arm is individually wrapped from the rest of the main body, and that's what allows the arms to swivel all the way up. That's some next-level shit. I'm really liking that a lot. Going down, it looks like the two arms are identical, no fancy gizmos or gadgets on this more medieval-looking alternate universe-style Batman. But over here we have, it looks like some bicep armor with some fake leather straps. Those are also done in the same plastic, but they still look very good, so I'm not complaining there at all. Once again, we got some of that chainmail cloth underneath. Would have been nice if it was a bit more shiny, but that being said, it sells the illusion pretty good, especially from a distance, so I'm not complaining there. Got some really big, hefty gauntlets, very similar to Wonder Woman, I think. And if we could just, like, turn it to different angles, you make out all these neat-looking diamond shapes and angles and corners. It's just fantastic. I mean, when you really look closer into it, you also got some marbling, a little bit of weathering. It's not just molded in straight plastic like the McFarlane figure would be. Here, they went the extra mile, several miles even, to make this figure look like he's a little battle-worn. I mean, he's a god of war, so of course you want that. And we're going to have a look at a whole bunch of hands later on, but he comes by default with 2 fists. They're very armored up, very gnarly looking. I would not like to be backhanded by this Batman, that's for sure. Off to the torso, here we get a really awesome marriage between, again, that Wonder Woman and Batman logo done in this really nice gunmetal silver. I'm really loving that. And man, this armor, I know we kind of already talked about this with the arms already, but even on the torso, you got all these individually sculpted pieces that are kind of just lied over top each other, and just gives him this really neat sense of geometry, I guess you could say. Very symmetrical design, very medieval looking, very crisp. It's just astounding. And we'll go to the back again as well, and the details continue again with more of that marbling and almost a scoring. It's so good. Again, I don't know what the manufacturing of these figures, what that process is, but whatever they did here, it just looks incredible. Then down here, we've got a lot of different multimedia textures to look at over here. So right at the center buckle here, we've got a little bit of the skull. So we got a little bit more Ares coming out of this. Up to the sides, you got some hip armor, maybe a little oversized, but again, it's a comic book. They're supposed to be a little bit artsy. That's how it's supposed to be. As for the soft goods, looking pretty nice. I kind of wish they would have done a little bit of weathering here, though. Maybe a little bit of a black wash, some gray, just something to make it, you know, a little bit more dirty and comparable to everything else that's going on. Although, that being said, I am feeling a wire in there, which is great. On the McFarlane one, this was all one solid piece, and it all drifted to the side, which I did not prefer. If I wound up getting the McFarlane one, which I'm glad I didn't now in retrospect, I definitely would have replaced this plastic part with something more similar to this cloth portion over here that we have with the Dynamic Action Heroes variant. We also have 2 chains, which is a very neat little detail. When I first took it out of the box, they were kind of pulled behind the hip armor over here, so you might need to get some tweezers or just do what I just did and use your damn fingers and pull them forward a little bit so they're more visible. But they look really good. They accent the figure very nicely, and we can actually pull them a little further in front of the cloth. Yeah, it looks incredible. This whole figure is a museum. That's what I'm calling this figure. It's a museum of just a whole ton of different and unique elements that come together to make one cohesive vision that is pretty damn incredible. Going down to the legs over here, we got, I mean, no surprises, but it's still surprising because we know what to expect going all the way down. You know, you got the segmented armor, you got the usual paint job and everything, but it's still exciting because it's so well done. He's got some knee pads down here, again, a continuation of that chainmail. It looks like the body glove does indeed continue from the upper torso down to the legs. So whereas the arms are separate, the legs are the same piece within the cloth, if you got what I mean there. So that's not a huge deal. You're not going to need as much movement from the legs as you are from the arms. So it is a really nice mechanical decision that they made up here. And then down to the feet, you have, oh, there's some toe articulation. I didn't even notice that. Look at how seamless that is. You don't even see a bolt or a hinge or anything. You just feel that out, and it doesn't do a whole ton. But the fact that it's there is still pretty good. And it can also go down quite a bit. So, interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm really digging this figure. But I'm also very interested in the accessories, which we will get to right now. Firstly, it is worth mentioning that he does come with a unique figure stand, which is pretty much tradition with all the Beast Kingdom figures, but still looks great. It has pretty much that same comic image of the Merciless as you saw out of the packaging. This time like an inverted silhouette. Over there you could see my overhead lighting, a little behind the scenes action going on there. You got Dark Knight's Metal, got the Merciless up front. Looks great, beautiful. And then you also got this little pillar over here to plug right in. And then over here, you've got Crab Claw Clamp, so just plug that right at the top, and I suspect there'll be no issue. There we are. So you got the Crab Claw over here, got no visible screws, so I'm not seeing any way to tighten them if you had to, so if they're loose, they're loose, which is unfortunate, but fortunately, it seems like it's right in the middle. It's not too loose, not too tight. It's gonna hold him up. I mean, he stands on his own pretty well, as you already saw, so not worried about that at all, but that being said, really good stand. Next thing I want to talk about, I think the thing that you want to talk about are the head sculpts. I didn't even know that he had 3, but of course we first talked about this one over here, a good, angry-looking Bruce Wayne. Now let's see what it's like to remove the head. Now that's one of the few things I learned about this figure, doing some homework on it, is that the heads can be a little tricky to remove. Yeah, I can definitely feel that tension here. It's not easy, so I'm going to probably switch these heads out and then end with, uh-oh. Alright, we got a little bit of that fur coming out, so let's be careful with that. I'm going to go through these heads rather quickly, and then I'm just going to put on my desired head and leave it that way, because I don't prefer an unmasked look, as you know from me. Whew, there we go. Jeez, that was not a fun experience. But anyways, the next head sculpts we have, I'm actually not going to put this one on because I'm afraid of breaking anything in here, but we do have this alternate wavy hair expression, so we can actually put these side by side and do a little bit of a comparison. Same face, you got a little bit of the gritted teeth over here, but over here it's closed, and over here you got the wispy hair. Kind of wishing that you could replace the hair, so maybe you could have wispy over here with the gritted teeth, then you could have the more idle hair over here with this bowl cut, I suppose, and then the more placid expression. But of course, you want the thing that made the Merciless into the Merciless being the Helm of Ares, which is absolutely fantastic looking. Actually, it seems like it might be a tad warped over here, but then again, this thing's been through battle. I guess if it's a little bit bent up, then it's excusable, and I could just get a little cup of hot water and see if that fixes anything. But yeah, it's got the same beautiful paint detail, that metal sheen that everything else has on this figure. Looks very knight-like. You almost got this grill in the front, very much like a knight helmet, and just a lot of great details. And then, of course, you got these bat wings coming off the top to remind you that this is indeed a variant of Batman. So let's try putting this head sculpt onto this figure. Sorry we didn't put on the wavy-haired one. I was just a little afraid of breaking the LED rig, which we are going to talk about in just a few moments here. But let's see what it's like to get this head on. Not so simple. Jeez. I might be so tempted to go and get hot water. And another thing I'm noticing is this joint does not move very much down here in the neck. So that's frightening me a bit. But let's keep pushing here and see if we get lucky. But, yeah, damn, man. I mean, just looking at the ball socket and the actual ball joint, it does seem like this is a little bit too small, just by a hair, but just enough that it makes it an absolute bitch to get on the rest of the body. So I'm going to keep trying, but if this doesn't work, I'm going to do some hot water. It's not going to damage anything electronic. The light is in here, so it's not going to hurt anything there. You know what? This isn't happening. I'm going to get some hot water, and I'm going to bring them back, and then we'll see what we got. So, please hold. Okay, I just gave this guy some hot water, so let me try this again. And... oh, that time it went right on. Nice. Okay, great. Also, I think it might have fixed up the ears a little bit. You can see they're still a little bit floppy from the warmth. So, yeah, if you want to switch any of these heads, at least with this one, hot water's the way to go. As for these guys, though, they are made from a different type of plastic. They're definitely a lot more hard. They're not as malleable. So I feel like hot water might not be as good. But what I'd recommend is if you are interested in having these heads displayed with this figure, you might want to get a Dremel, go a little bit around that hole there, and just open it up a little bit. I think that's all you'd really need to do. And then if it comes out a little bit loose, use a little bit of poster tack. That'll help to secure it a little better. You're not going to need the LED feature for these guys anyways. Speaking of LED features, let's talk about that. And I am actually not sure how this is supposed to be done. That being said, this looks really cool altogether, finally. Here are the instructions. There are two sides of it. One side is totally not in English, but the other is, but it's all the same instructions nonetheless. Down here, we have actual instructions on how to turn on the LEDs. I'm not sure if the batteries are already in there or not. Nope, batteries are not included. So I'm going to have to find those, and we'll talk about it, so give me a moment. Yeah, okay, so some bad news for the LED feature. First of all, I realize that this requires a type of battery which I do not have, the LR41 battery. What the hell is that? So I don't have that on hand, and I'm not sure if I'm even going to bother going out of my way to buy it. Secondly, if you do have those batteries, when it comes to actually getting them in here, good luck, because it looks like you have to undress this entire figure to actually get to the battery compartment. You see, I'm bending the figure forward a little bit, and you can see the little edges where the battery compartment is supposed to be open. So this would imply you'd have to remove the head, remove the shoulder pauldrons, remove the fur, peel that all away, remove all the arm armor, including the hands, to move the arms up, to slide this piece of armor off, to then get to the battery compartment. And then you can hit the switch, which is also hidden behind the armor itself. But then you gotta take the armor, put it back on, then put the armor back on the arms, then put back on the shoulder armors, and the fur, and the head, and then it's lit up. But if you want to turn it back off, you gotta do everything all over again. So it's just an absolutely insane process if you do want to get this thing lit up. Honestly, if I did ever want to go out of my way to get the batteries, which I don't think I will, then what I do is I would just cut a hole over here, because it's not going to be visible anyways, it's behind the fur. That way you just have easy access to here whenever you want it. But for me, I mean, if I'm ever going to turn it on, I'm just going to be like, what? And I'm going to be like, cool! Then I'm going to turn it off again. So for me, it's just not worth it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm probably just going to paint in the eyes to give them an emissive glow feel. I kind of have learned to use paint to simulate a glow, so I'll do something like that. The last thing I wanted to mention is while I was actually heating up the helmet, I unfortunately didn't take pictures because it was such a fast process, but while I was heating the helmet, I did test out other lights underneath, and the light does come through. However, there is a little bit of paint, like black paint, you can't notice it here really, but just around the edges of the eye. You can kind of make it out. You see, it's not a perfectly clear lens, so you might need to get a toothpick or something to clear away that excess if you do want the natural glow coming through. But honestly, because this requires such unique batteries, and it's such a process to get into the battery compartment, and the switch isn't very accessible, and I don't want to damage the figure and cut out the armor, like I said, that is possible, I'm not going to do the glowing feature. I apologize that it's not a complete review as a result of me not doing that, but it's so tedious that it's just simply not worth it, and I wouldn't be turning it on enough to justify going the extra few miles to get that done. But for now, it's a great looking head sculpt. As for the eyes themselves, either paint them or light them. Up to you. Now let's talk about some more fun stuff. Over here we have what is called, by the box at least, the God Killer Sword. And looking at this thing, I believe it. I do indeed believe this could kill a god. It looks absolutely beautifully done. It's got a whole lot of intricate ridges carved on the inside. It almost looks Egyptian or something like that. Got very nice gold deco. Really good looking wrapping around the grip. Looking fantastic. Also, this little bit of a hitch on the very end. It looks great. It's just a great and awesome looking accessory. Very unique looking blade, unlike any other sword that I have in my collection. So, all good there. Fantastic. As for hands, oh boy, there are a lot of hands. So, where do we begin? Firstly, we have some gripping hands for the sword, of course, or any other accessories that you want. And it looks like the plastic is somewhat malleable. It's not the stretchiest thing ever, so you're gonna have to pick and choose your battles with hot water with these, probably. So basically what I'm gathering with this figure is, so far, I know we're taking a pause here, is everything looks amazing, but in order to get everything functioning, you're going to have to go out of your way with some heat. That's just a matter of fact here. Moving on to other hands, we have some more open, relaxed hands, and actually you can see in the palms, he's got a little bit of that strap going around to the upper hand armor. So I think that's a neat looking detail, really great. And again, this figure looks incredible. That's the best part about this whole thing. It's just the functionality that does make me a little bit worried at the end of the day. And then we also have some semi-relaxed, more gesturing hands over here. So he's a god of war if you want him pointing his armies forward with 2 fingers, and he can do that. And yeah, it looks great. And I also forgot to mention he almost has these almost nearly looking Catwoman fingernails going on. So it looks like it could be a little scratchy. He doesn't even need the sword. He could probably just punch you out, scratch you out. Just a very deadly looking character, especially with his accessories. And the last things that we have are a variety of electric accessories over here, which look really cool. I like how they're nice and thick, nice and sturdy. They don't feel like they're going to snap or anything. Got a little bit of bend, so that's very nice. So yeah, very good accessories. However, contrary to the product shots from when I bought this figure, the instructions do not actually show you how to apply these electric effects to the main figure. Like on some of them, you have a little bit of a clip over here, so that makes things a little more obvious. But for other ones, it's a little bit more ambiguous. Like here, again, you got some of that clip, a little bit more of that fur from the back. My apologies there. But yeah, something like this, I have no idea. I guess you could be holding it, or you could have a figure stand suspending it in the air. I guess you just have creative license as to whatever it is that you want to do with these. But like this one, I have no idea. But something like this, you could put it around his neck, and it's coming around from the back. You could have it around his wrist, his leg, or something like that. So some of these make a little bit more sense than others, is what I'm trying to say. So, as for part swaps, let's do the obvious thing and get him wielding the God Killer sword. So here we have a gripping hand. Again, it's a little tight. Well, if you use 2 hands, you can flex it open a pretty good deal. And it looks like you might be able to just slot it through the top a little bit. Let's see, just kind of worm it in. And yeah, you can get that hand all the way up there. So yeah, good firm looking grip over there. As for removing the hand from the main body, hopefully it's a different story than what we saw with the heads, but let's try and pour. Oh, super easy, not even an effort. So that's really good to see. And then you could put the God Killer sword hand in there, and you can even remove the gauntlet. You can remove anything on this figure. Again, it's a mini Hot Toys, but yeah, just rotate it in. Feels a little tighter when you're using one of the alternate hands, but let's see here. Gets a little annoying with the gauntlet in the way as well. There we go, hit the sweet spot, and now it's pegged on nice and good. Didn't really click, that's fine. Everything here seems to be okay. And if it's all the same to you, I don't think the sword's going to leave him for the rest of this review. Same with the head sculpt. I just am afraid of moving anything else on this figure, taking anything else off. So we're going to be a little bit more cautious. This guy's definitely a display piece through and through. Not for children, that's for damn sure. Moving on, we also have some electricity. So let's see what we can do with that. I mean, we got a little fist here. We could put that right there, and then I guess we can open this up and then cuff it around. Hey, that's pretty cool. Okay, so it looks like he's holding a bolt of electric energy or something like that. And then what else do we have? I'm just trying out different things here. Maybe we can get it over here towards an elbow. A little loose, but I mean, that could be done. Let it hang down, it's not too bad. So yeah, there's a few electric accessories. I don't plan on putting them all on. Again, like, for some, I have absolutely no idea where they're supposed to go. But you have total creative license. You can put them wherever you want. You might need some, like, poster tack or something like that to keep them in place, depending on where you want them. For me, I honestly am not sure I'll be using them at all. But they're still nice to have. And I also have over here... This is just always in this room, and I don't know why. I have, I believe, the Tamashii Nation's electric effects, and this is a very good-looking electric accessory if we pan on out, and that looks pretty cool. So, I don't know. I might do something with that. But, yeah, electric effects are totally optional. As for the hands, though, I think they are able to hold the sword okay. They're pretty easy to swap. I mean, you just have to hit the sweet spot, and then they go in. I don't think you need hot water like you did with the head sculpt, so that's good. But... fortunately, it seems like everything you need to do with the hands and with the electricity, you can do with a little bit of creative liberty in there. But yeah, well, for the most part, the accessories are not too bad. It's really just the heads and the really irritating LED feature, which is totally inaccessible.
Now let's move on to the articulation, and while I know it's not the best articulation ever, it's certainly better than the McFarlane one, so that's another pro with this figure. The articulation in the head might vary depending on which head you choose to go with. I feel like you're definitely going to wind up choosing one head sculpt and sticking with that for the rest of your life because of how tough they are to swap, but at least with the helmet, which I'm sure is everyone's preferred head, you do have some tilt. You've got a crazy amount down, which is good. He is meant to be a taller character. He is exactly to scale with the McFarlane one, which is why I wanted to get him. I forgot to mention that. You can have him not really looking back, though. It kind of clashes with not only the armor. It kind of just hits a body glove in the body on the inside there. You can't really see it too well. Right there, you can kind of make that out. But yeah, there you go. As for the arms, you already talked about this, but he does have a 360 swivel. Of course, it gets stuck on the shoulder armor, so you can't go all the way back. But the fact that you can get this high at all is great. I mean, if you wanted to imitate the comic art and get the God Killer over his head, then yeah, you could do that. You just can't look up, which kind of sucks, but that's all right. You do have a biceps. Is that a bicep swivel? Yeah, that whole thing is a bicep swivel in there. I thought it was coming from the elbow for a little while. Speaking of elbows, you can crunch it up. It's a little tricky with the sword in the way. Let's switch to the other one. Over here, you've got, I think that might be a single joint. I can't actually tell. If it is a double joint, I'm not seeing it go any further than that. But anyways, it can go past 90, so that's very good. For the McFarlane one, you can even get to nearly there, so that's really, really good. As for the wrist joints, I keep mentioning McFarlane, but that's pretty much what these joints are. In, out, up, down, depends on the hand, what position you want. Pretty good, except the gauntlet might get in the way a little bit. But if you want just holding up a fist, looking badass, creating some potential thumbnail material, you can absolutely do that as well. Down to the torso, I'm not sure, but let's see. He's got, combined with the waist, so I like to kind of put that all together, he's got some tilt. He's got a pretty good amount forward, and he's got some back. Just slight in every direction, but he does have movement in every direction that you want. Can he go very far? Not really, but still pretty damn good. As for the legs, let's see what the splits are like. Not crazy. I mean, he's not going to be doing a side kick or anything, but it's pretty good. Again, it's restrained by the body glove, so there's not much you can do about that. As for kicking forward, not a whole ton going on. Also, you have a little bit of chains and cloth in the way and more armor, so not a lot of kick. As for knees, though, let's see here. It does go a little past 90, kind of similarly to the elbows, but again, I can't really tell if there's a double joint or not. As for ankles, they can go a pretty okay amount back. Not a ton, but it's something. Good amount forward. He's got some toe articulation that comes just up to there. Not a lot, but it's something. And some down, which I don't think is anatomically possible in a suit like this, but it's there. And then I imagine you also have your rocker. Yes, you do. So, yeah, there's, well, no pun intended, pick and choose your battles. He's got a few issues in there. Not the strongest articulation. There's got some issues with the accessories, but that being said, I feel like the general look of this figure overrides everything, especially for the price. He's really damn cool. Here we are with a few size comparisons where things actually get really interesting because, at least in the McFarlane scale, which is what I got this figure for, Merciless is supposed to be oversized, but when he's put next to a Dynamic Action Heroes figure, he's exactly the same size. Anyways, over here we have the McFarlane Batman Who Laughs, who is, of course, the poster boy of the Dark Knight's Metal storyline. This is the variant with the Hawkman wings, and I also made him a custom scythe. Then over here we have the Tim Burton Batman, who you may remember from this channel, who has a flurry of problems, perhaps more than the Merciless does, but the Merciless obviously looks a lot better. And these guys, if you exclude the ears, I think they're exactly the same height, which is really interesting. I did exclude their figure stands as well to prove that point, but yeah, if you want a Merciless figure that's bigger than everyone, hopefully you're a McFarlane collector. If you want a Merciless figure who's the same height as everyone, then hopefully you're a Beast Kingdoms collector. But I get them just on special occasions, and in this case, he fits in scale with McFarlane figures because I picture him as a much taller dude, so that works for me. And I know that the Batman Who Laughs has this really obnoxious figure stand over here, so let's go with a pretty standard height figure
to bring in instead to do a proper comparison. Here is my McFarlane Batman Family Nightwing, who I am currently in the process of modding. Actually, I'm done with him. I did a head swap and we changed out the nightsticks with some paint. We'll talk about that later when we review all 5 figures in the future, but yeah, that's what a standard height McFarlane figure looks like besides this Merciless. Looking really great. And lastly, of course, you got our Star Wars The Black Series, Mechamuck!
The long ears. You must be another bat freak. You must join our merry band in conquering the multiverse.
Actually, I'm just a Kowakian monkey lizard. I don't really affiliate with the bat people.
You must join me, and together we will conquer the multiverse as Bat and Better Bat.
You're not Batman. Batman's a totally different guy who looks a lot like Michael Keaton.
No, I am Batman.
Really? Oh, these comics have gone too far.
You'll get your own cape.
Shit, dude, I'm in!
There are a lot of things that can be said about this figure. First of all, he's got some mechanical weirdness. He's got the LED feature, which I imagine does indeed work, but the path to get there makes it totally unworth it at the end. Oh, you also got a little bit of flaking fur coming off, so beware of that. But back to LED feature, is it worth even having that little gimmick in here if you can't even get to it? I don't think so. I'd rather they would have went into the eyes with some iridescent paint or something that made it look like it's glowing. So that's something I'm going to wind up doing on my own, most likely. The articulation's also not the best. That could be said about any character with a body glove, although they did go out of their way to improve the arm articulation by adding a totally separate glove to each arm, which then gets socketed into the main body. So it's nice to see that they are innovating a little bit. As for the rest of the articulation, good in some spots, not so great in others, but overall, it's pretty balanced. There's nothing outstanding, there's nothing that's really terrible. It all combines to get him to enough decent poses that he can still look pretty damn cool. Speaking of looking pretty damn cool, this might be in my top 10 figures of the year so far. As we approach mid-year, as we approach 500 subscribers on this channel, I could say this might be one of my favorite figures that we've ever reviewed. Just aesthetically, he looks incredible, and I'd say worth, especially considering the price discount that I got for him. He's worth all the little negatives that I've got about him. I can ignore the fact that the LED features a little bit of a bitch to work with. I can ignore the fact that the hands can be a little bit tight. I can ignore that the articulation is not always the best, and it's good enough. As like a showcase piece, which is pretty much what Dynamic Action Heroes is for, he is incredible. Definitely better than the Batman we looked at before. Like the Batman, he looked good, but he was like falling apart at the seams. He was mechanically destroying himself. This figure, even though he's not the most articulatedly sound, which is another thing I've made up today, he still holds together. Nothing feels like it's gonna break. Nothing's falling apart. Everything's held together well. It's just the one gimmick that they added, being the LED feature, is impossible to get to. So I find that a really interesting choice on their part. Something I was definitely short-sighted. But all that being said, is he worth getting? Because he is so heavily discounted absolutely everywhere, yes, I do think he is a figure worth getting. Would I consider getting a Dynamic Action Hero figure in the future? Also, yes. I mean, depends on the character, depends on how personally attached I am to them, while they scale with the other figures that I have. Again, this is only my third other Beast Kingdoms figure, but I only got him because I plan on pairing him up with my McFarlane figures, so he might not even be with the Burton Batman I've got over there. But it's so neat that we've got a figure that can go with either a Beast Kingdoms collection or a McFarlane collection. So it's nice that they have that choice, whether you want him being standard height or oversized. I prefer him oversized, so he's going with McFarlane figures. As for everything else he comes with, I mean, he does have 2 other head sculpts, which are going to be a pain in the neck, literally, to get on his head. While on the rest of his body, you can't get a head on a head. Well, I guess you could try. You also get the electrical parts, which don't really have a dictated way of going on the figure, but you can kind of screw around with it. Like you can see here, I kind of fudged them onto a wrist, their wrist, and they kind of look pretty cool. And you got a ton of extra hands, you got a whole lot of soft goods going on here, you got some actual metal components, being the chains. There's just a lot of eye candy. Enough here that I am able to totally ignore the negatives. Just kind of paint in the eyes. If I do that, then we might talk about that one day. But all that being said, I think he's amazing. Definitely worth getting if you haven't picked him up already. I hope this was a thorough enough review. It's probably going to be pretty damn long. I can't wait to edit this thing. But yeah. He's great. I do recommend him. Get past the shortcomings. I think you'll have a lot of fun. So, all that being said, thank you guys very much for watching. And if you enjoyed them, please, as per usual, wait a minute. Well, I guess it works with the fur on the back. But anyways, be sure to
Like, comment,
Ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals. And subscribe. This is the editor speaking, humbly reminding you to support the pod Patreon in the description to guarantee new content every single week.
Thank you guys very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.